Hey guys, what's going on? It's Michael with Formerwind. I'm here to help you guys get your first engineering job. Today, we have Pat, the man, the myth, the legend. He works at BlackRock Engineering. He's a super awesome guy there. He's an amazing husband. He has three kids. He's a rock star dad. I mean, in the community we're part of, he's super impactful. He inspires me and motivates me every day. He's an athlete. He's the man you need to look up to. If you need anything, reach out to him. He's on LinkedIn. He'll be in the description. Without further ado, Pat, so good to have you. Let's go ahead and get started. Really excited to learn more about you. We can tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, perfect. I appreciate that intro. That's quite the intro to follow up with. Yeah, my background, I'm a mining engineer by trade. I'm currently general manager over at BlackRock Engineering. Basically, it's an engineering company that kind of focuses on many aspects consulting. So we deal with a lot of mining heavy industry. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, that's kind of my background of the engineering side of things. But deeper into that was by trade mining engineering, and then started off in civil engineering actually, and then I had a real passion against the mining side of things for a bit, but then I got convinced after meeting a few guys on the mining side, and they were my type of guys, and we just kind of hit it off, and so I switched over to mining, and I haven't looked back since. It's been a great journey.
That's awesome. Did you go to school? And then
Yeah,
like what'd you
yeah.
graduate
So
with?
I went 4 years up at Laurentian University in Sudbury. It was a great university. I was a part of a lot of communities there as well. So we had the Engineering Society. I was the president there, and then also the captain of the mining games team. So that one was actually pretty cool. We competed against all the universities across Canada that had the mining engineering program. So I think there were 16 universities. The 3 years I was a part of it, I we placed first, second, and then fourth. So it was pretty cool experience, and it was amazing to be able to travel and kind of compete in the games against other universities and kind of meet and greet people as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it sounds like you had like a nice segue, a lot of network to work with, and you had some good opportunities come your way. That's pretty cool. What got you interested in the civil engineering in the first place?
So civil engineering for me was my parents' Sudbury is very much a mining community, and growing up here, my dad was in mines, and I just said, you know what, I'm not doing mining. Everybody does mining. I'm going to do something different. So I started
I
off
love
in
that.
civil. Actually, I the reason why I went engineering actually was because I was recruited to play football down at Queens and Waterloo, two universities in Canada. So when I was recruited the first time, I didn't have any university credits, so I went back for a grade 13 high school, took all university credits, and I decided at that point that I was going to go not for basket weaving 101. I'm going to take an actual course, something that has a job at the end of it or has a promising path of a job. So I decided I was going to take up engineering. And that's kind of what
Awesome.
set off the path for that.
I love that. Yeah, no, I mean, like, especially with what you said too, when people, or at least students that I've talked to, they go into engineering, they pick their major, they either switch 100 times or, I mean, they just wind up somewhere else. Like, for example, someone I work with, believe it or not, has a music degree. Okay, so let's
Okay.
just process that, right? So, like, I mean, it's crazy how you just wind up going where you want to go or where you think you should go or what opportunity presents your way and you just fit into where you should be. So, that's awesome. I love that. Can you kind of talk a little bit more about what exactly you do, like at BlackRock? So you talked about it a little bit, but what's your day to day like?
Yeah, so my day to day right now is a lot of business development. We've been around for about 12 years. We're part of a greater group of companies. So we have Ionic, which is our parent company. That's been around for 25 years. We just celebrated 25 years this year. So we're the consulting division of it. So being the general manager, I oversee kind of the projects coming in. I'm also helping out with the business development side of things. So meeting and greeting, getting out into the field, going to meet clients, potential clients, going to meet people, just kind of introduce ourselves and make sure that we're out there. Build the presence online as well. That's kind of what I'm focusing on right now. Uh, the business development side of things, it's something I never would have thought I would have been into, but I'm actually enjoying it. It's time consuming, but it's cool. It's something I think everybody should kind of get into because especially with the way that society's going nowadays, with everything being so modern and technology, the huge enforcement of technology, that business development, you got to do a lot of reach outs, a lot of cold reach outs, getting told no's, getting told yeses. Like it's kind of like a roller coaster, but it's cool at the same time. It gives you a little bit of drive to keep going.
That's fun. Sounds like you stay busy, huh?
Yeah, try to.
I love it, man. Cool. All right, so let's kind of talk a little bit about sometimes when you were a student, and then I mean maybe now too, but when you were a student, what are some of the biggest struggles you had to kind of overcome? I mean, it sounds like you did really cool because you were involved with the clubs, which is something I tell a lot of people to do, and some do, some don't. I mean, not everyone can be president, right? So I mean, you're obviously among
Yeah.
the elite as it is. So like, what are some struggles that you face either maybe getting to that or after that? What's talk to me?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So like for me, actually a lot of it was self-confidence, believe it or not. So out right now, like I've broken out of that shell. But for the beginning, it was like I couldn't talk to people. I couldn't go in front of people. I couldn't go in front of a crowd. I had a really hard time with it. Um, it was just over time, I kind of developed a system in my head where I was like, you know what? These people are going to have to talk in front of me anyway, so why am I worried about them? They got to do the same thing. And I just kind of put that in my head, and for some reason it calmed me down. But the self-confidence thing and not always giving myself the positive reinforcement I needed. I never felt like I was good enough in some aspects. So that's where I found it challenging. It was kind of like self-sabotaging really at the end of the day. But now, where I am now, it's like I know where I am. I know what I'm doing. I'm right. I'm doing the best I can. And if I don't know, I'm asking the right people and I'm making it very aware. Like that's the one thing I will say to everybody is don't just sit on it and dwell on it. If you need help, get help. Like when you're failing on a project or when something's falling behind or something's slipping, make it aware because the last thing you need is something to blow up in your face. I've been on projects like that and I've seen the outcomes of that, and it's never good. If you're upfront with them, yeah, they might get mad for a minute. Yeah, something bad might happen for a minute, but then at that point, they're like, okay, let's work through it. What are we going to do? So it's always better to be upfront and honest, especially in engineering and any kind of consulting, anything like that. Be there with them and kind of be aware, like make them aware of the problems or struggles that you're going through. It makes everything so much easier at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, like sometimes or early on in the student's life and then during school, I mean, some people might say something like that, but not as direct or really teach that or put that at the forefront of the lesson. So then maybe they make that mistake, which is good. I mean, I definitely believe you need to kind of make a mistake to learn from it. But at the same time, if there's more of an emphasis on pushing people to get better and overcome, like what you just said, I think that'll really divvy up and go up the chain for when you're actually working, and you'll be able to make more impact because you'll be able to overcome that earlier. Like during your school time, did you have the right lessons like early on? Like people kind of tell you what you should be doing, or do you think you learn more from failing versus people telling you what's good?
So for me, what I found for me was you kind of need to have some kind of failures because if you just have successes, you don't. It's just easy at that point. When you have a failure, that's when it's like you get challenged with adversity. Having that adversity kind of helps you get through those hard times as well because it's never always easy. There's always a hard time, and that's what I found in engineering is that it what I'm not saying that it's easy, but I'm not saying it's super hard either. But what I am saying is just the workload. I don't know what it's like in the States, but in Canada, they give you an extra course per semester. So you're already doing your five, you're adding another one, you're adding your six plus your labs and everything else. So it's just time management, being able to do the work. Like that's really what it came down to. Is like if you're able to just sit down, do the work. Like we went from like a class of like 200 kids to our graduating class of like 30, 40 maybe. And it really fell off, and you could tell because the kids that graduated were the kids that grinded and the kids that put in the time, put in the effort to make it work. And that's the one thing I think that engineering was great at teaching me was that you have to sit down, put in effort, put in work. Like I failed a few classes. Not everybody does, but
Yep.
I did, and I
Yeah, no,
learned
I
from
did too.
that the
Yeah,
most. Yeah. And like it doesn't
100%.
make you less of a person for doing that. Like people have failures. You get it, you move on. But if you sit there and dwell on it and like you drop the course because you failed the class, like it doesn't help you. If you push through it and keep going, you learn from that.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, I'll tell you a quick story. Very hard to admit, but I mean, just exactly what you were saying with the failing part. So, this was one of our project classes. I think it might have been like my sophomore year, something like that. So, we were working on a project, right? And then we had the opportunity to kind of take that outside and go into a little NASA competition and apply for it. Now, during that time, that's when I was figuring myself out with the confidence and really just figuring out what I wanted to do, and I wasn't doing too good. So at that point, I didn't do good in that class. I didn't participate or contribute a lot to the project, so I had to retake the class. Okay, but that team that was working on that project for the competition, right? And the next semester they kept working on it, and then they managed to win the NASA competition. And then they got like a private dinner at night. Yeah, like I was like, come on, man, if I just got my shit together a little bit earlier, that would have been great. But no, like so like now that's kind of permanently in me, right? So now, I mean, that's never gonna happen again. So 100% with what you're saying, man. Um, Kind of digging a little bit more deeper. We've given a lot of students advice as it is, but what's one more piece of advice?
One more piece of advice I would say is um, surround yourself with good people. You are who you are around with, and if you're around not bad people, I don't want to reference that, but like kids that don't push themselves, kids that don't strive to do better, kids that don't want to be better, you're just gonna follow in line with them, man. It's hard to level yourself up when you're surrounded by people like that, or it's hard to soar like an eagle when you're surrounded by chickens in that sense.
That's right. All right, next. So, in terms of you and where you see yourself going, what are some of your goals for the future?
So I'm glad you brought that up actually. Goals to me is like one of those things that a lot of people, once you complete university, you don't have them. It's not like you have a sports team or you don't have anything you can go to. You're kind of just coasting. I found myself doing that through Christ till 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, where I was coasting through life and I just had no purpose. So one thing I would say is don't only just set career goals, but set personal goals too. So personal goals wise, I have a half marathon this weekend and I'm planning on running it in an hour 30 or better. Next year, it's wanting to qualify for Boston Marathon, but to qualify for my age group, you have to run a full marathon under 3. But even if you run it under 3, you still might not qualify. So that's my next year. And then maybe if I do qualify for that, after that, I'd like to run one. And then maybe future down the road, maybe a Leadville 100 or something, like something crazy. Do
You
something
got
wild
this.
like that.
You
Yeah.
got this. I love it, man. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never been much of a runner. I'm definitely gonna want to get into it. Like my goal right now is to really kind of get shredded, and I definitely want to get into a bodybuilding competition. I probably see myself out like a year and a half from that. Maybe two, but kind of working towards that. So that's my goal. But then I definitely want to get into running. I mean, for anyone watching, you should definitely read Can't Hurt Me. I'm almost done with it.
Yeah.
I love that book, and yeah, you too. It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy how much
Yeah.
that can change your life. You sound like
Yeah.
so awesome that you got this, man. You're gonna kill it.
Yeah, I went through like I said, it was only like the past 2 years that I've really kind of focused on it. And I've grown more in the last 2 years than I have in the past 31, as weird as that sounds. Like you level up, you go through things, but like the past 2 years when I really set my time to it and like I listen to a lot of David Goggins now. I listen to a lot of different things like that and podcasts and things like that where you can learn and educate yourself. I've learned a lot about myself more than I ever did before. I did a lot of deep dives into what made me who I am today and how to change my things that I feel that I could do better on and be a better person out of it. Running to me is giving me that clarity. I don't plan on stopping it. In the wintertime, I'm probably going to do more of a hybrid workout routine, but that to me is the big thing is goal setting. Set yourself up some personal goals because after university, you're playing beer league pickup or you're playing beer league soccer or whatever the case is, you're not striving to do anything that's challenging. The challenging stuff is what grows your mind, grows you as a person, and makes you accountable. Um, I went to like my accountability now is through the roof, which is fantastic. And then career-wise now, being general manager, I want to watch this company grow and succeed. That's my big goal. I'd like to double the workforce by next year. That's my goal at the end of the day. And then I'd like to just keep growing and growing and growing. That's what my big thing is.
That's awesome, man. That's crazy. Sounds like you
Yeah.
got some big ambitious goals that you're already killing and you're on the right track. I love it. That's gonna be so cool. So I mean that transition right in next into the thing I wanted to talk about. I mean for students, obviously it's important to you fitness. How important is it for students for fitness for them to get their first job?
Yeah, so for me, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I was in university, I was just heavy lifter. That's it. I didn't care anything about cardio. I didn't care anything. I thought people running were losers. I didn't care about it. I thought it was just like if you can't lift, you're running. That's why you're running. But now being where I am, I was in university, my last university, I fell off working out completely. I was just smashing bad food because the hours that I put in for mind design, for all these other things, I was like 260, 270 pounds by the end of it. I was just massive, but I was still like, I was lifting heavy weights and I thought like, you know what, I'm good. And then, yeah, I kind of transitioned through that journey. But to me, working out is crucial for anybody now. And I wish I would have done it sooner. I'm glad I'm doing it now because I'm building that resilience. Taken me 31 years to get there, but doing it in university, is great because it's also a time management tool and it's also a release. Every time I worked out in university, I could have been stressed. I could have been thinking about a million different things. After I was done, I was like, I could breathe again. Like there was no anxiety, no anything like that. And anybody that has those things, like if you're suffering from anxiety, if you're suffering from depression, if you're suffering from anything like that, I'd say start going to the gym. Don't go in there and try lifting 500 pounds. I'm not saying that. Just Go there, spend some time in there, get used to it, make some friends in there, and then they'll keep you accountable. Keep going. You'll notice a difference in your mood. You'll notice a difference in your energy levels. You'll notice a difference in a lot of aspects in your life. And I find the gym is really the center point of that. And then also diet falls into play with that. But at the end of the day, if you're consistently going to the gym and consistently improving yourself and pushing your boundaries, you're going to build that resilience that you need to have to excel in your career.
I could not have said that any better myself. That was such a great answer. Let me ask you a little bit in terms of what you've seen in the engineering community or, um, business and just other engineers you work with. Do you see them talking a lot about fitness, not talking about fitness enough? Like for me, it seems to not be the number one topic if someone's talking about advice or giving mentoring advice to a student. Maybe they'll give resume advice or something like that, but they're never going to ask about, okay, well, did you work out today, or or like something like that. Like, what are your thoughts about the industry and how fitness is in it?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because like I find there's like different aspects of engineering. I think everybody needs to understand that because like engineer people think you're behind a desk pushing drawings or pushing manuals or whatever the case is, but it's not always like that. I find engineering is a good gateway into getting into it's a foot in the door to kind of do whatever you want. I'm an engineer. I haven't signed off anything ever. And you don't have to sign off things, but you can go into management with an engineering degree. It gets you that foot in the door. You can go into sales with an engineering degree. You can go into different aspects, even engineers to be engineers.
Yeah.
But I find for me, I've always kind of drifted towards the management side of things. And I know a few people in my like my graduating class, we all kind of followed the same path. We all were kind of bros, we all kind of gym guys. And like a few of them went the engineering path, which was great, and like they'd done well. But like fitness to me was the guys I surrounded myself with, and out of my class of like 20 people, I'd say like 10 of us were consistently in the gym. And it was nice because like you're bringing that brotherhood from there to the gym and then back and the banter and everything else in between. But honestly, engineering, you don't hear about much about fitness. Like there's not much. You talk about work a lot, and to be honest with you, when I'm at work, it's cool. When I'm not at work, don't talk to me about work. I don't want to talk
Yeah.
about it. I spend too much time there.
And I just want to emphasize that too. You said 30 out of like 200 graduated, 10 of y'all work assistant in the gym. I mean, that's a good statistic. That's how it adds up. So
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that, man. All right, next up. So this is something really important. We already talked about a lot of tips with students and what they can do and how they can operate and I mean what you've seen in work, but what's something that you think is overlooked? What I mean by this is not taking opportunities or people being lazy about it. Like what's something overlooked that maybe other engineers or other students could really take advantage of, whether that's in school or work or just anything you've seen.
So for school wise, I would say the one thing that's overlooked, mm, s- everything you learn in your book is not going to completely like apply to what you're doing in life. You need to get some real world applications and knowledge. The book stuff is great, but when you get out in the field, you'll learn way more. I learned more from a guy mining for 40 years than I did ever in a textbook. And it was eye-opening and it helped me out in my career. That was one of the greatest things I would say was get yourself a job that can benefit you, not just engineering wise, but practical wise. Because the one thing I find with engineering, especially in mining, and you might find the same thing, is when you have somebody who sits behind a desk every day and just designs stuff, great, that's cool. But the problem is when they go to put it in real life, there's a lot of things they don't think about or get applied to, and then the people that are designing it, building it, are like, what the heck are these people thinking? Um, I gained a lot of knowledge, and I like grew immensely doing that because I did a lot of construction projects. And I remember one guy taking an eraser off his desk and he's like, no, you'll fit right there. And I'm like, you can't be doing that. Like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, a piece of equipment doesn't fit there, and a piece of equipment isn't an eraser either. Um, but that real world knowledge and getting your hands dirty was, especially in mining, really helped me in my career because I was able to talk the talk and walk the walk. And then when I went back to school, it helped me with my design projects, the knowledge of doing it because when you understand it in a book, it's cool. When you see it in real life and understand how it applies in real life, you're like, I get it now. I understand it. Now it makes sense.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, no, that's definitely something I need to practice more. I do a decent amount of design work. I've done some projects where I get my hands dirty a lot. Like my last project, how we just talked about that one in my sophomore year that I failed out of. Like my senior design project, I wound up being like the only one working on it. Funny enough, so that was so that worked out. So I had some experience with that, but I definitely need to get back into that and really kind of stretch myself to do that because that's going to challenge me. So that's going to help me get better. I like that.
Absolutely.
In terms of what's a nice quick tip that you think you can give students to find their first job? Easy, quick
Quick
tip.
tip I would say is do your research. I find a lot of people when you go to meet people or drop off a resume or something, do your research. I cannot tell you how much 5 minutes of research about a company, about the people that are interviewing you, about anything like that is going to help you and set you apart. If you go in there blind, you're setting yourself up for failure. You want to stand out, you do that 5 minutes of research and you know the people's name that you're coming into and saying, do a LinkedIn search. I don't care if they come up on, it'll show like the notify or do Facebook or whatever it is, but look into them, find out more about it, find out more about the company, and prepare yourself with ending questions. A lot of people, when they come in for jobs or anything, they're like, I got nothing else to add. It's like, oh, okay, so you didn't do any research. If you come in and start
Yep,
asking questions at the end, they're going to be like, okay, this person knows more about the company. They're setting themselves apart. That to me is like a huge thing and it's completely overlooked. I do it now every time, like anytime I've done kind of any interviews. I spend like a few hours actually researching. You have to. You have to prepare yourself as best you can, because if not, you're just failing.
yep, yeah. No, definitely have some questions lined up for the interview too. Like the number one that I always like to tell people to ask is, like like for them to ask the interviewer is, if you were to imagine me in the position a year from now, how would you know I was the right fit? So always ask that, and then that'll get them thinking maybe. But I mean, that's just one question. You definitely need to research. I mean, so many people just go in and they don't know anything. It just shows you don't care. So
Yeah.
love it, man. All right, next up, this is going to be one of our last questions here. What's another hobby? We already know you're a star athlete and up and coming on that, and you're a family man. But what's another hobby you
Yeah, no, it's one hobby is definitely the sports with my kids. My wife is very athletic too, so it's enjoyable. So like we go family golfing, do a lot of family stuff, and I enjoy coaching the kids. Right now my oldest is in hockey. He was in football, he's in soccer. Taking the time to do those things, like my wife's a soccer, she's great at it, fantastic at it actually, and like really good. So she takes care of the soccer. I leave her to that because that's not my sport. But when it came to football, when it came to coaching and stuff, I really found like a passion in that, and it kind of made me feel good to give back. Because like when I was a kid, I appreciated the people that put the time and effort into doing that. And it's good to see like these kids progress. Some kids at the beginning of the year, like it's only been like 5 weeks of hockey. My kid was a prime example. Was last year he was standing. Now he's like flying out there, and like we had some kids screaming at the beginning of the year on the ice, and like you take the 5, 10 minutes, and then you get them walking, you then get them skating, and now they're like enjoying it. I'm like that really gives me like a warmth kind of deal. Like it makes me feel like I'm doing a good job for somebody else too.
have? That's awesome. I love that, man. Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
Listen, we got one last question. I know we've given so much advice. I hope every student has taken notes. If not, go read back, watch this, take notes, apply it, figure out where you can apply it in your life. But your younger self, what's one more piece of information or advice you wish you could have told yourself?
So I would say it gets better. It gets better. Don't give up, it gets better. There was a time in my life where I was not the happiest kid. I was like severely bullied in high school. So that was like a tough one for me. And then that's where a lot of self-confidence issues actually gets rooted back to that. So in doing that, it was like dark time, right? And when you go through that and like now seeing myself where I am today, like not only position or career, but like family, personal, like everything like that. I'm like, at that point in time in my life, I was like, oh, it's just black and dark and everything else in between. But now I'm like, this is amazing. Like, it's so cool, so awesome. And a lot of people, like, if you're struggling or whatever, like, reach out. You have to talk to somebody, do it. But don't give up in any sense. Like, it always gets better. That's the one thing I would say.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, this has been great. I think this has been actually extremely more valuable than I planned. I knew it was going to be awesome, but this was really awesome. So thank you for giving one every all the advice you gave. We went over a lot. So listen, I hope you have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week. Everyone watching, like, comment, subscribe, go follow Pat, ask him any questions you have. Thank you all for watching. See you guys next episode.